Hello, everyone, and happy Saturday. Today is October 31st, Halloween, and I thought that I'd hop in here and do a November energies. I'm not too sure what the guys want to bring through, but I have a slight idea. And I did this as a pre-recorded because I wanted to make sure I gather my thoughts. Oftentimes when I don't have much prepared, I can stay in this calm, still space. Because when you're live, there's a lot of energies, which is beautiful. It's just a different expression. So this month is all going to be about, November, starting tomorrow, is all going to be about really deciphering what's coming in. So, for instance, you're going to be asked to check in with yourself and decide what is it that is in your orbit right now, or that is floating or hovering in your field of existence that is yours, and what is it that isn't yours. And then you're going to have to take out those cosmic tweezers and pluck it out. Now, sometimes I use personal examples because it's a good reference point for me. But this video is about you. But I will start with this one example that came to mind just yesterday. So I received a phone call from a family member yesterday, and they attacked me, which I did nothing to warrant that behavior. Something about me, and I know that this is true for a lot of sensitives and a lot of intuitives and a lot of empaths and starseeds, we keep to ourselves. I keep to myself. I don't go on people's pages and criticize them. I don't bother people on the phone. I really am someone who loves to be on a solitary path. I am the hermit card. Have you ever seen that hermit card on the tarot? That's me. So what I find happens repeatedly in my life is that people will spin a web of drama. So they create something, and then they will not account for what they've created. They will not hold themselves responsible for what they created. So I'll give you an example. Last week I was speaking to this family member, and they were asking if I'd meet them somewhere in December. And I asked them, how are they going to go about the quarantine laws, or what are the instructions, if you will, that all have to follow. And they were like, well, we can't kiss or hug, and we need to distance. And as much as I respect that, that does not float my boat. And I have a right to that. I don't want to be in a home with family members, and I can't hug them and kiss them. I want to hug my family. So as I was asking them just very matter-of-fact questions, by the way, something you should know about Virgos is we like to get our ducks in a row. So we're able to not be emotional because we're trying to kind of organize it in our minds. And I work a lot with the divine masculine, the higher mind. So working with timeline possibilities and all that. But when it comes to physical matters, I like to get organized, not in terms of planning things, but more so I have an idea as to whether or not it's in vibrational accord with me, or if it isn't. So I told them I didn't feel comfortable with that, but I love them, and that we will make it happen at another time. Now, while I was asking the questions, I was just asking them, so what do you want to do? And they weren't answering me. They weren't giving me a direct answer. And all of a sudden they handed their phone to someone that was with them, and they couldn't talk. They didn't want to talk about it, just matter-of-factly. I was just trying to ask, what is going to happen if I go? And so they dropped the phone, they gave it to someone else, they handed the phone to someone else, and they called me yesterday and said, hey, I really didn't appreciate the way that you spoke to my significant other. And I said, I didn't say anything. All I said was, hey, where did you go? Where did you go? We were in the middle of a conversation. And so anyways, they accused me, and I want to say it wasn't an attack, but it was like a soft attack. And so in that moment, I just saw how the whole thing had been spun from them. So I very calmly asked them, was it okay of you, without warning, was it okay of you to not let me know that you were going to hand the phone? You really put me on the spot by doing that. And they're like, no, it wasn't. Okay. So then I said, based on that alone, would that entire scenario, would have that entire scenario been created if you had asked me, can I hand the phone over so you get more insight, or maybe I'm just too afraid to tell you what we're going to have to do here? None of that would have happened, right? So I stated my case, and it was that. And then we look at the person got really mad, and then I sent them a text later. I said, hey, I'm sorry for the whatever misunderstanding, but in the future, just let me know if you're going to, put me on the spot with someone else and you don't want to have that conversation man to man. So now we're fine. But my guides really brought through important information that is going to pertain to this month for all of us. Where is it that you have a hand in the dissonance that is invited into your life? Do you sincerely keep to yourself and don't want to cause problems? Meaning you pay your bills on time, right? You do everything basically by the book because your peace is important to you. That's me. My peace is the most important thing in my life. I feel like a lot of starseeds, a lot of us are here for a mission, and we need to stay focused on that mission. So we make everything right in the 3D so that we can serve this higher calling. That's how I see it, or this galactic mission on this earth plane. That's how I feel. I don't want problems with anyone. I just really keep to myself. I don't instigate ever. That's not my vibe. But I find that a lot of people will shove me in a corner sometimes, and they don't take accountability for what they created. So they drag me into their drama and their trauma, and now all of a sudden I'm a punching bag. So my guides brought forth something really good. They said, Phil, you need to stop apologizing to people who need to learn how to hold themselves responsible for how they come at you. So again, you're going to have to wait out. There are areas in my life that I'm cleaning up because there are things that I used to do. I've gotten really good at this, but I have abandonment issues. So I'm sharing that very vulnerably with you guys. So one thing I used to do is all my exes call me like he runs hot and cold, because whenever they would do something that wasn't in line with integrity, I would go cold. So I would just break up, shut it down, but I would never articulate how that made me feel. Now, the result would have been the same because I'm big on integrity and my psychic radar is super on fleek. So when someone does something to me that they know would hurt me, and if they don't know it, then they're probably not at the level of consciousness that I need to be met at, then it's over. But what I've learned to do now a lot more is to open up and express how I'm feeling. So when I, let's say, date someone, if I want to hold their hand, I will hold their hand. Whereas before I wouldn't do that, or I wouldn't verbalize or vocalize what I wanted. And I've gotten much better at that. Because sometimes we abandon people before they get to abandon us. And I know a lot of you can relate to that. So that's something that I've worked on a lot. I've also had a lot of issues like in the past with like body image and wanting to make sure I always look amazing. And that's something I've really worked on as well. And everything is a work in progress. But your job this month is to the best of your ability, to try to identify what's truly yours and what isn't yours. what's truly yours and what isn't yours. And it's a very nuanced game, because you can easily fall for what was presented to me yesterday, which is like, oh, I didn't mean to talk to her like that. I'm sorry. You can easily fall for that. But I knew in that moment that my boundary was being crossed. I didn't do anything to warrant that behavior or that accusation. So I did stand up for myself, and I unleashed my dragons. And my dragons don't play, y'all. My dragons don't play, but it's really rare that I unleash them. I just unleash them if I feel like there's an injustice here. And so we are being asked as a whole to start holding people accountable for their own actions and to stop sponging it all, because we all have this proclivity for absorbing other people's stuff. And I want you to go back into your memories, or I want you to reflect on current situations that you're in and ask yourself, does that person tend to apologize to you ever? Do they tend to apologize to you? Do they tend to hold themselves accountable? And if they never say sorry, that is a telltale sign, my friends, that it is time for you to step up, step into the shoes, to step up and step into the shoes of the sovereign being that you are. As long as your end of the street is clean, so you haven't hurt anyone, you've been paying your bills on time, you've been doing what you need to do. But to really show people, hey, this is not going to work anymore. And what happens so often is after that argument, because again, when you speak your truth, it can send people off the edge. Okay, and they can blast you, or they can flip a switch on you. So then you might take that on as an empath and then be the one to take the higher road and apologize. This is not what we're doing this month. Okay. The other message that came through from the guides is that, and this came through earlier this week, is the veil is thinning more than ever now. Especially now that the election is around the corner. When I talk about the veil thinning, think of it like this. There is less lurking in the shadowlands. There aren't as many shadows hiding behind bushes. So when people are feeling this spike in their emotions, everything can be seen and felt. That's really what veil is thinning means. So dimensions are brushing against each other. And I'm a firm believer that every single trigger, every single emotion intricately links to a frequency bandwidth. So I don't see humans as being less than higher dimensional beings. I actually see humans as being multidimensional beings, and there's a certain level of intensity on this planet because it corresponds to all the different star systems and all the different star races that there are. And I got a really good message from the guys yesterday. They were like, you are not a fifth, they were saying this to me and to you, you are not a fifth dimensional being. You are a multi-dimensional being holding all dimensions. So our job is to not bypass the dark. Our job is to hold all of it, meaning you can be having a conversation with someone and you're aware of their shadow aspect, but you don't judge it. You're aware of their bright aspect, but you don't judge it. You're aware of all the information coming in, but you're able to withhold that information because you have the bandwidth to do so. You're able to hold a lot of light. And dimensions are filled with light. They are light. They are, you could say, systems that hold light. So the more light you can hold, the more systems you're able to straddle at the same time. So sometimes that can be a lot to juggle, which is why people tend to get upset or agitated. Oh, this is good. They tend to get upset, agitated, frustrated, or really angry, or reactive, or reactionary. I was trying to say reactionary, but then I said reactive. Reactionary. The reason they do that is because they're not able to hold the light. So it's almost like plugging something into a socket, and it's like they can't handle that voltage. And that's always the case when someone is getting reactive. There's an opportunity for an upgrade. Say you're in traffic and you want to get home, and now you're getting agitated and you're fidgeting and you're like, when am I going to get home? That's an opportunity that's being afforded to you in that moment to heal some sort of an Akashic imprint or a trauma from your childhood that has yet to be examined, that has yet to be attended to. So anytime we have that knee-jerk response, it usually, not always, but usually points to a trauma that we haven't dealt with yet. Okay? But then it gets tricky and it's very nuanced because, again, if someone manages to successfully guilt you, they're guilt tripping you, and you believe it, and you call profusely trying to apologize, then maybe you've just absorbed something that wasn't yours. So it's not black and white. There are many shades of gray when you're dealing with a quantum. So the veil is thin this month of November. There's going to be an emotional outburst, an emotional outpouring. People are going to grapple with whatever the outcome of this election is, whether Biden wins or whether Trump wins. There's going to be an intensification of the overall energy. And you really have to make sure that you guard your energy. Now, I'm usually not a proponent of protecting or guarding your energy because I believe that the more that you're able to receive the light through what is seemingly dark. So if someone says something that really bothers you, there is light in there. You just have to focus on receiving that light. It may not be presented in a light and bright and decorated package filled with flowers, but it is still light that's being transmitted through that darkness for those who have eyes to see. Okay, that's why I always encourage people, when you take a bubble bath, what do you want it to mean? Because you can actually program the water. You can program your breath when you go out for a walk at night. You get to decide how you configure your matrix. And then your intention enables realities to come forth. It enables frequencies that are vibrating at that level to meet you. Because when there's an asking, there's a response. When there's an asking, there is always a response. The universe never fails to respond to your vibrational frequency. It never fails. So you can have a monster with red eyes screaming at you and trying to bite your head off. There's still light there. I'm not saying don't run for the hills. You may want to run for the hills. But once you get settled, you may want to try to examine, like, what do you want it to mean? And because time doesn't exist, you can always go back to your memories. Memories are a gift. You can always go back and rewrite that story and then funnel in energy based on that memory. So the past is a gift in that regard. I can go all over the place with this video, but I'm going to stay on topic. So there are going to be a lot of people coming for you this month, throwing daggers at you this month, sticking labels on you this month, lashing out at you without rhyme or reason this month. That's going to happen. And that's because they can't contain the light. And the universe is pressing everyone right now to really be willing to come face to face with themselves and to deal with their emotions. If you want to, for instance, be stubborn and stern the rest of your life and not change, that's okay. But manage yourself. Does that make sense? Like, if you have a problem with compulsion or an addiction, Obviously, your guides would implore you to look at that because it's probably something you've been carrying many lifetimes. But if you don't, you can still become a better person. You can still expand as a being. That's why I always say, don't be hard on yourself, because the inner critic is brutal. The inner critic is brutal. Don't be hard on yourself. The guides told me very clearly, long ago, they don't care about your darkness. They don't care. What I mean by that is they don't care about what you perceive to be a struggle. They don't. They care about you focusing on what you can do right now to become a better person. And you will not be forced into a reincarnational wheel. You will not. This is a very dense reality, you guys. So of course, there are distortions left and right. But we are so courageous and so brave for being here. This reality is not for the faint-hearted. So I digress, but my point is, try your best right now to guard your energy. And I know that I'm not a big advocate of doing that usually, but you're going to need it this month. And if you're in the wrong, then have the courage and the humility to apologize. And if you find that there's a reoccurring theme, like for me, all the dots connected yesterday. It took a long time, but all the dots connected that I'm always minding my own business, and then somehow either a friend will call me for advice, I'll give it to them. I'm very much of a straight shooter. I tell them what I feel. And then they'll say, you know what, you don't speak with love, Phil. So boom, again, like shoving me in a corner. So I refuse to let that in anymore. I refuse. Access denied. And we're all being called right now to look at people and say, hey, this is not okay. And that archaic energy is gripping onto everything it can right now, which is why people are going to have these automatic responses and these knee-jerk reactions, because those people are very afraid of coming into their own light. They've been denying themselves for so long. And the universe is saying, hey, Mother Earth is ascending. This is happening. So you can either have the rough and the tough way and resist us all you want, and bang your head against a wall, or you can decide to be on board, not fully, but at least be willing to manage yourself, to manage your own emotions, and not encroach, that's the word they're giving me, not encroach, I'll have to Google that, upon other people's territories. Hey Google, define encroach.
Encroach is used as a verb to mean intrude on a person's territory or a thing considered to be a right, similarly to trespass and impinge.
Okay, so...
Do you want to hear encroach used in a sentence?
No, thank you. All right, so that's the message for November. I may do a part 2, but remember, you guys, that, and I talked about this on Instagram yesterday, that the reason why people try to control you is because they can't stand the fact they can't control you. The reason why people attack you, the reason why people project their negativity onto you, the reason why people throw shade at you, the reason why people try to diminish you, the reason why people try to demean you or devalue you is because they can't stand the fact that you're uncontrollable. And I said this yesterday, you're unboxable. So when someone can't shove you in a box, they're always going to use a different tactic to attempt to do so. Our job is to not fall for it. It's like, hey, I'm unboxable. Stop. This is yours. And one thing the guides taught me, I want to say in 2012, 2013, like after my awakening, they said to me that this is a free will planet and you have a right to do what you want with your free will. But you can't impose that on other people. All right? Your free will is designed for you to craft your own reality and to control your own reality if you like. But you can't control other people's free will. And when you do that, there are repercussions, always. Because again, the universe is always responding to your vibration. So if you're being mean to someone and they did nothing to deserve that, you were just projecting, yeah, you might get put in your place. Because the universe is saying, hey, that's yours. You're responsible for it. And sometimes we try to shove the universe in a box. Look, the universe is going to express itself how it wants to in that moment. Whatever is most suitable for that moment. Sometimes it's going to be loving. Sometimes it's going to go silent on you. Sometimes it's going to be compassionate. Sometimes it's going to let you know that you were out of bounds and that you were out of line. The universe is infinite. So typically, the most dominant frequency that's needed in that moment is what's going to occur. It is. So it's okay sometimes to let things go if that's what the moment calls for. And maybe you have some shadow work to do. And sometimes it's okay to stand up to the bully, to say that's not okay. You don't get to do that. Because if one person's bullying many people, I bet you most of those people don't have the balls to say anything. So you have to be the one, as a starseed, as an indigo warrior, as the, almost like the, an expression of Archangel Michael, to take out that sword and say no. So that's the message this month, is making the distinction between what is yours, what isn't yours. There's going to be so much, you guys, floating to the surface this month. The guides kept saying, buckle up. It's going to be a bumpy ride. You know that saying, hang on to your hats, it's going to be a bumpy ride? They said, buckle up. Because attacks are going to come from every angle. Punches are going to be swung at you from every direction. But it's also a momentous time to get to know yourself more than you ever have. And to assess what shows up for you and go, wait a second, there's something off here. And by examining and inspecting those different patterns, you will be able to glean information that's been showing itself to you, but maybe you couldn't see it. And now you will. You'll be able to see it clearly, because the level of intensity in November is going to be so high that we won't be able to turn a blind eye to what is that reoccurring theme in our lives that we need to nip once and for all. Okay? This is a great time to cancel out the ripples of karma, to come into a greater measure of who you know yourself to be, but also to claim and to own that. You're not supposed to float everyone's boat. You're not. You know, you can be someone who's super diplomatic with everyone all the time, and you'll have people saying you don't have enough opinions. Those are haters. You might be someone who's highly opinionated, and then there are going to be people who are like, you're not diplomatic enough. There will always be people who find something wrong with you. Always. This month is about coming into self-love, loving your flaws, loving all that you are, and really deciding, I'm going to carve out a life for myself that I know vibrates in harmony with my higher self. And you can always sense it. Like, I know about myself, I know that I keep to myself. I know that. And I know that I feel my best when I'm a hermit. I know that I feel my best when I'm living as a dot. Does that mean that that's the only way to live? No. But it's what fits me and the frequency I'm here to contribute to the collective. All right? So I love you guys so much. If you would like to donate, I highly appreciate it. My link is feelgoodlife.com/donate. feelgoodlife.com/donate. I'll attach a link below. And if you enjoyed this, please subscribe. That really helps me. Please share. And again, I might do a part 2. We'll see. But this is good for now. I love you tons. Much love.